Hey guys, my name is KK and today I will be redesigning Bliss from Powerpuff Girls. So first off, I want to talk about some of my biggest problems with Bliss's design. To be honest, her hair is my least favorite part of her design. I have no idea why her hair is sticking up like that, and also it's a very bright blue color which makes her look a lot different than the other Powerpuff Girls. Like, she looks really out of place. I also don't really like her proportions that much. Like, her legs look way too long compared to her body, and they also made her hips a lot bigger for some reason. A lot of people were mad about the color of Bliss's outfit as well. I mean, they stole it from a beloved character of the original series, so I can definitely see why people are mad about that. However, my biggest complaint about her is that she looks really out of place with the other Powerpuff Girls. I know she's supposed to be older, but she still just looks really out of place. I always believed that the Powerpuff Girls were colored to match the RGB scheme, so the fact that Bliss is just a random purple color makes her look really out of place for me, especially with the neon blue. I also really hate her backstory. Like, why is it that the only black Powerpuff Girl is the one that's seen as defective and can't control her powers or emotions? Like, that just really made me mad. In this redesign, I not only wanted to make her look better, but I also wanted to give her a new backstory that I think would suit her more. So yeah, let's get to it. So since she is a teenager, I decided to give her like a revamped Powerpuff Girl outfit, so it still looks like a Powerpuff Girl, but I think it is a little bit cooler, like it's not so kiddie. So I traded in the flats for some high-knee boots, and I gave her some gloves. I also traded in the skirt for a skirt because I feel like that's a little bit better for crime fighting. I also gave her a fro because I feel like that hairstyle would be cute on her. It seemed like they wanted to make her hair look voluminous, so that was my thought process behind this hairstyle. I made her hair a dark blue because I thought maybe she likes to dye it, and also it's not as crazy as a bright neon blue. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm making her outfit a blue color, but I actually have a reason behind that. So I was thinking, what if she was created by a different professor, and she had her own set of siblings? So my backstory is that after Miss Bellum decided to leave Townsville, she went to Citiesville to become the mayor of that town instead. If you guys remember that episode from the original, you know that place was really janky, full of crime, things like that. So Mrs. Bellum would hire a professor to create a new set of Powerpuff Girls to make Citiesville a safer place, and this is where Bliss would come in. So she would have her own set of siblings, and they would have their own color scheme. And I was thinking, why not make their color scheme CMYK? So cyan, magenta, yellow, and then the black can be in their outfits. I can see Bliss as being the leader of these Powerpuff Girls, which is why I decided to make her cyan since C comes first. I also wanted to come up with a way that she can be introduced to the main Powerpuff Girls. So there will be a villain in Citiesville that decides to travel to Townsville, and the Powerpuff Girls are struggling against him. So this is how Bliss will be introduced. So she would come down and she would help the Powerpuff Girls defeat this villain because she's fought him many times since he's from Citiesville. After defeating the villain, Bliss would introduce herself to the Powerpuff Girls. She would tell them that Mrs. Bellum sent her to come find them since Mojo Jojo has moved to Citiesville and he's starting to cause trouble there. And since the Powerpuff Girls have so much experience fighting Mojo Jojo, then they could help them. And that's how Bliss's storyline would start. So now I'll talk more about my process. So for my shadows, I made a new layer and I set it to multiply. Then I chose like a light purple color, and I'm just blocking out where I want the light to be with the eraser tool. I find this method a lot easier, especially when I want to do like dramatic lighting or shadows. I can easily block in the shadows and where I want the lights to be. I also like to use 3D models for reference. With the 3D model feature in Procreate, you can add the lights exactly where you want them to be, so I find that useful for a lot of my pieces. After I laid out my shadows, I start blending. I like using the soft blend tool along with the hard blend tool, so I can have hard shadows and soft shadows. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys watch the shading process until we get to the next part of the drawing. Okay, so for the skin, I wanted to add some subsurface scattering. I feel like this makes the skin look a little bit more interesting and it makes the whole character come to life. So I set the layer to overlay and then I chose a bright reddish color to paint on the shadows of the skin. For those of you who don't know what subsurface scattering is, it's basically where the light hits your skin, and since your skin is translucent, then you'll see like a reddish color where the light hits your skin. Realistically, it's more noticeable around the nose and the hands, but since I like the way it looks, I just put it everywhere. So for her gloves, belt, and boots, I wanted it to be like a shiny leather texture, so I added a lot of hard shadows and lights. Again, I'm using a reference for the boots, and I think it's important to use reference on all of your pieces because you only have so much knowledge in your brain. I personally use a lot of references for the material of clothing. I feel like that's one of my biggest struggles. Okay, so for the eyes, I just made them typical anime eyes. I just shaded with a darker blue, and I added the pupils, of course, and then I added some cool highlights to make the eyes look a little bit more interesting. I actually used the color wheel to make contrasting colors for the highlights, and I feel like that added some pop to the eyes. So originally, I was going to give her a natural lip color, but then I was like, why not give her a blue lipstick? I feel like that would be cool. So that's what I did here. I gave her a navy blue lipstick, and then right here I'm adding the highlights. I always like to add glossy lips to my characters. Oh yeah, and then for the hair, I actually used a cloud brush to add like the basic shadows, and then I added the curl definition, just using like a normal paintbrush. As you can see here, I'm just blending the hair right now, blending the shadows in so it looks a little bit better. So then after I'm done with the basic shadows, I like to use a custom hairbrush that I found online for free, and I just added some hair coils. To be honest, I feel like drawing froze is easy, but shading it can be hard for me sometimes, so of course I always like to use reference for that as well. Now I'm just adding highlights to the skin. I just made it like a light yellow brown color, and I'm adding it to the left side of her face and her body because that's where I wanted the lights to be. And of course, again, I'm using a reference. I'm always going to talk about how important references are. It helps me so much with my artwork. So I added a layer for the overall highlights of the character, and I selected the parts of the body that I wanted to be highlighted. At first the highlights were yellow, but I decided that pink would look a little bit better, so I changed the highlights to pink. And in some parts it looks a little bit more purple, but that's okay. I'm using the soft blend tool for the less intense highlights. So then I started to work on the background. I made it a dark purple color, and then for the outline around her, I made it a light pink color so she really contrasts against the background. So this is her final design. I hope you guys like it. I wanted to do her justice because she is the first Black Powerpuff Girl, and I feel like their goal was to add diversity. I just feel like it wasn't executed the best. But let me know if you want to see more videos, and let me know if you want to see more redesigns too, because I'm interested in doing more redesigns. I think this was fun. But thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!